Hi guys, welcome to curling class, which for this episode is currently being converted into a cooking class. Unfortunately, the season has been cut short due to the coronavirus, so I'm at home with the family, and so you'll probably hear some interruptions once in a while, like my daughter coming into the room, but that's great. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Dynasty Curling and Colin Hodgson of Team McEwen for inspiring me to make this video. I know curlers around the country and around the globe are really showing off their recipes and cooking skills and things like that, so I thought I would get in on the action and provide my family's favorite recipe, which is a lasagna. It's a 3-meat, 5-cheese lasagna, and I'm going to be demonstrating a lot of different techniques that a lot of cooks know, maybe some curlers don't know, so maybe you can use some of these processes and techniques for your own cooking while you're at home quarantined or at your own stay-at-home orders. But I'll be making fresh pasta the easy way. I'll be making a pasta sauce. I'll show you how to make the meatballs because the meat that I'm going to use the same ingredients that I would for my meatball recipe in the lasagna recipe. So there's a lot of things, and there's a couple other tricks that I'll be showing that I'm sure a lot of you home cooks already know, but maybe a lot of you don't. So we're going to have fun today. Again, well, not again, but this lasagna takes about 5 to 6 hours to make. So if you're at home by yourself, this is a fun thing to do during the day, but the end result is really worth it, and that's why it's my family's favorite recipe because, well, for my kids, it has a lot of cheese and meat and sauce, so they really love that. But it is just a flavorful, filling meal and hearty meal. It's a good family meal, and I'm doing it on this Easter, and I hope you find it entertaining at least, or you learn something new, and you can maybe try this out one day when you have a lot of free time, or you just want to get the family involved. And try this, or you can just use like the pasta recipe. There's a lot of these videos on YouTube already, of course, but I'll give you the way that I do it anyway. So hopefully you enjoy, and let's get started. So yes, we're making lasagna. The first thing I like to do is get the sauce going because that's going to be taking the longest. So I just like to reduce it down over a few hours, maybe 3-4 hours to reduce it down. So these are the ingredients that I start with. I'll put a link to the full ingredients list below, or maybe I'll just list them out below. So if you see that I missed something, we'll have the full ingredients list below. And I'll put a link to Dynasty Apparel too, because again, they're the inspiration for me making this video. So I'll put a link to their site below. They do curling apparel, custom curling apparel. So I'd like to start with what I call a flavor bomb. So this is what really adds a lot of flavor to the sauce. And so I'll start with some garlic. We have some anchovy. I put some crushed red pepper in there, some dried Italian seasoning, salt and pepper, and a little olive oil, and then I'll just mash it all together and make like a paste of anchovy garlic paste that's spicy and herbaceous, and that's what we're going to use as a flavor bomb. So let's get started with making that. So you just take your garlic and just peel it, start it off. There's different ways to do this. Everybody has their own way, I know. I just like to break off some bulbs of the garlic. How do you like to do it, Max?
Crush it.
You like to crush it? Zoe, how do you like to do it?
Crush it.
Crush it. So I'm going to be using 5 cans of tomatoes. These are San Marzano tomatoes. So don't be shy with the garlic, the anchovies, and the crushed red peppers because it may seem like you're adding a lot, but this is the flavor bomb. This is what's going to flavor, at least start the flavor of the entire batch. So 5 cans of tomatoes are a lot of tomatoes. Right, Max?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have our garlic here. We'll just want to start peeling it. Just start with a crush. I don't mind wasting a little bit of garlic. I try to just get through it fairly quickly. Get the big ones until I see that I have enough. So I'll fast forward through this part.
Okay, here starts Daddy again. I hope you like it.
Oh, thank you, Zoe. Okay, so I've peeled the garlic. I have about 14 large cloves of garlic here. If you're using the smaller ones, maybe use a little bit more. What I like to do to start though is I'll heat up my pan, or my pot rather. Get the pot heated up here with a few tablespoons of olive oil. Get that going. And I like to use some yellow onions, so I'll just cut these in half. I don't leave chopped onions in the sauce. I just like to infuse the onion flavor into the sauce. So what we're gonna do is add the onions, start to caramelize it in there before we add our flavor bomb. And we'll leave the onions in there as we reduce the sauce and just infuse the onion flavor into the sauce, and then we'll take the onions out later. Yummy flavor bomb, that's right. And you can leave the peels on, it doesn't matter. This is going to be cooking for so long, or you can just peel it off. It's going to be cooking for so long, it doesn't matter. If it comes off, it's going to disintegrate. But you can pull off all the loosies if you want, or the outer layer if you want. Doesn't matter. Just make sure you keep that root intact so you can pull it all out in a chunk. Sometimes it falls apart a bit, or you drop it into the trash, and 3's fine. So cooking's not an exact science. 3 will be fine to infuse the flavor. It's not like baking. We're still gonna get the onion flavor. Put it in there, you'll hear a little sizzle. So we have that going now.
You mix it up a little bit, the onions inside the pan.
You mix it up a little bit, Zoe?
Yeah.
Then we'll get our garlic going. We're just gonna crush this garlic right into the bowl.
Is that enough onion things for the sauce?
Yeah, I'm not using all this garlic, so I'm gonna save a couple cloves for later.
Yeah. We might not like to cut it, but it's okay.
Let's get a little exercise in. Okay, so we want to put some salt on there. There's videos online of how to make a garlic paste, and basically all you do is crush some garlic or slice it thinly, add salt. You can use your knife and just rub it through, and the granules of the salt will bring out the moisture and help grind up the garlic and make a paste. Those videos you can find online. Get some salt on there. So I put the salt and the pepper on there to really help mash it up. It'll help like sandpaper, just shred it up and make a paste. So I'm gonna make this anchovy paste and anchovy garlic paste here. So I can hear the onions going. They're really crackling away. We don't want to overcook those. So we want to get several anchovy fillets out. Maybe pour a little anchovy oil in there. It's good. Slice up your anchovies very thinly. You don't want any large chunks really of anchovies, so just go through them. Get your fingers out of the way. Cross cut. Basically just chopping the anchovies up. Throw them in there with the garlic. Okay. Italian, dried Italian herbs. This is going to fry up, so I have fresh herbs we'll be adding as well. Really need to keep your hands washed when you're using that anchovy. So now we're going to add a lot, not a lot, maybe a teaspoon or 2, depends on how spicy you want it, of the crushed red peppers.
I don't like it that spicy.
I know, sweetie, but you eat it like this every time, don't worry, because it just kind of infuses and permeates through the entire sauce. And again, it looks like you're adding a lot of, just like my daughter mentioned, this looks like a lot of spicy peppers in there, but we're adding it to such a large batch.
Oh,
That's what you need.
I like it like that.
Yeah, so this is our flavor bomb.
It looks like it's like a kind of sauce that you make into a ball and you just eat it.
Yeah, you want to take a bite of this?
No. I want to bite.
No. I could not do that to my worst enemy. It'd really wake up your senses though. So we're just kind of smash this into a paste.
It also looks like a rice that is green.
And I'll add a little bit more crushed red pepper there, yeah. Okay, So now we have our flavor bomb. We're just getting our sauce started, right? I mean, we just want to get that going and bubbling away because that's going to take several hours. So we get our flavor bomb, as I like to call it. Flavor bomb's ready. The onions are going. Let's get a little fan going. They're starting to go. Okay. Stir that around. Oops, it's a little hot there. I'm going to take that off the heat. Okay. Now, I'm going to add my flavor bomb. Okay. I'm going to spread that around in there. Get it frying. We get that garlic frying. Watch it, watch it, watch it. It's going to be hot. Yeah. We got our flavor bomb going in there. And you don't want to burn the garlic, so just a 30 seconds in there. It depends on how hot you have it going. Just about 30 seconds or so. We got that going now. We'll throw in some of this tomato paste.
That doesn't look too.
So about half a small can of tomato paste is fine.
Ooh,
That's going to be a bit raw. We're going to add a little bit of sugar. Sugar just to sweeten that up a bit. Kind of take the bite out of that. Take the bite out of that tomato puree, that tomato paste, as it were. Okay, now we have the heat going. Watch it, Max. Don't stick your eyes right over hot oil. And we're going to stir all that together.
The onions are coming apart.
That's okay. We'll pull them out later. Okay, so when I was just cooking out the rawness of the tomato paste. Unfortunately, I don't have my camera crew with me today. They're all at home, and I don't have a camera crew, so. But basically just frying that up, so we have the flavor bomb, the tomato paste, 3/2 of the onion. That's it in there, just kind of frying away a little bit. So you'll start to get some sticking on the bottom of the pan a bit. Now we've had that in there for a couple minutes. We're going to deglaze the pan with some red wine. I like to use a Cab Merlot blend. Has a little bit of the best of both worlds.
I don't need that lasagna.
Yeah, you always eat this lasagna, sweetie. So throw in about a cup or so. And then we'll just stir that up, deglaze the pan. Scrape up all the bits off the bottom if there are any. Off the side. Yeah, Zoe, so don't worry, it's going to cook all of the alcohol out of it. Okay?
So don't worry, it's going to taste like the usual lasagna. Really?
Now that's looking good. So we'll let this reduce down.
Oh, it smells even better.
It smells even better. So this will take about 5 minutes. Reduce that down. And then we'll take our San Marzano tomatoes. So go find some canned tomatoes. These from San Marzano, they'll say San Marzano tomatoes on them usually. There's different brands. And then we'll take our food processor and just waz them up and add them to the sauce. Okay, so the flavor bomb with the tomato paste and red wine has reduced down nicely. So now I'm going to add about a half a stick of butter to this. And it's really going to help with the sheen of the sauce and the flavor too, because who doesn't like butter, right? Okay, so I stirred the butter around until it melted nicely into the flavor bomb. And now we just take our food processor, waz up the tomatoes, 5 cans. These are 796 mLs, and we'll go from there. Now sometimes they add basil leaf. I have fresh basil here, so we're just gonna take those out as you see them. If it stays in there, it's not a big deal. Okay, now we just waz up the tomatoes in our food processor. And pour them right in. Okay, so we've poured that in. Stir it around. And now you can just start to take it easy. We'll add the next 4 cans of tomatoes, salt and pepper. And then we can move on to maybe making some pasta in a little bit. So I just wanted to throw this in here. A lot of people, the biggest error a lot of people make, especially home cooks, is under seasoning things. So we want to start off with a generous portion of salt and pepper. So the way I like to do it is I think of the amount of cans of tomatoes that I put in there. So I already did 1 can, then I said, well, maybe I should show this. But ultimately, I just count it out as I'm doing it. So I'll go across. Okay, that's 2 cans, 3 cans, you know, and so forth. 4 cans, 5 cans. And of course, it depends on what kind of salt you're using, how fast it's coming out, right? I just use the sift portion, not the big pour portion, right? So you'll have to figure that out for yourself, but just season it according to how many cans you're putting in there. And so I'll do the same for the pepper, you know, for how many cans of cans of tomatoes I'm using. So that could be like, all right, that's 1, and go to 2, and then to 3. So don't overdo it now because it's hard to take it out, of course, right? Just kind of keep it on the low end. This is going to reduce and really concentrate the salt and pepper as well. So you might take a taste here. It may still taste a little bit bland, but then after it reduces down, you add your meats, which you're going to be salting and peppering and other things. Then we'll start to fine tune it at the end. So just start with a good base, get that out of the way, and then go from there. Okay, so now we're going to talk cheese. We have our sauce bubbling away here. We want to make sure we turn this down now. We've added our salt and pepper. And we're going to need to stir this probably every 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Depends on how high you have the heat, how quickly you're trying to make the sauce. I like just a slow little bubbles coming up and then stir every 10 minutes or so. And just take it easy. Watch some football if you can. Can't right now, of course. All right, it's looking good. Okay, so for the cheese, I use 5 cheeses in this recipe. I have a provolone. We have Parmesan, we have mascarpone, ricotta, and pizza mozzarella. So we'll start with making the mascarpone ricotta mixture, and we add Parmesan in there and egg as a binder. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna grind up some of this parm. I'm gonna shred it rather, not grinding it really. Not that lonely yet in quarantine. We're gonna shred some up. And we use about a 1-to-1 portion on the mascarpone to ricotta. I like a little bit more ricotta than mascarpone, just because the mascarpone might make it a little too rich, a little too sweet. But when you're getting your mascarpone and ricotta, use the full flavor stuff. Don't get any of that light stuff. We're not eating lasagna on a diet, really. Not this lasagna, anyway. So shred yourself, I don't know, a half cup to a cup of parm here. You know, a thin shred is good. We're gonna crack a couple eggs into, I better taste that. Yeah, it's good. So we're gonna crack a couple eggs into the bowl. And whip it up here. Wash your hands. Guess I really don't have to tell you that. So this egg and Parmesan is going to help bind it together. And really the eggs in here and in the cheese and in the layers is going to help give your lasagna some structure, you know. I don't know if you've ever cut a lasagna or had a piece of lasagna that just turns into a bowl of soup. We don't want that happening. We need some binder agents in there. So let me grab a spoon. Okay, so keep in mind I'm making 2 lasagnas today because when I go through this process, I'm not making 1 casserole of lasagna, I'm making at least 2. So I'm starting out with, what do I have here? 475 grams of ricotta. Oops, just right in there. And we have 475 grams of mascarpone. So throw that in there. Great. And then maybe I'll just add a little bit more ricotta because I just like it, the ratio a little bit more. Ricotta to mascarpone. Take our parm, throw it in there. Throw half of it on the counter apparently. All right, we have that in there. We're not going to worry about adding salt and pepper or seasoning this because we're just going to season the sauce and the meat and everything else. There'll be plenty of salt and pepper to go around. So we just stir this up and we'll put it in the fridge until we're ready to use it. Okay, so I've stirred it until it's nice and all mixed together like this. Ready to be spooned onto our layers. Okay, so now we're ready for the meat portion. What we're gonna do is use the trio, beef, pork, and veal. So I just buy a couple packages of this. I have, what do I have here? Net kilo 0.64 and 0.9, so about 1.5 kilos of meat. Again, I'm making two lasagna, so using a lot of meat here. So I like to throw in some flat leaf parsley. I'll just grab a handful of that, chop it up, throw it in there. If I was making my meatballs, this is very similar to the meatball recipe that I would make. So that's what I was telling you earlier, is there's a lot of things you can use in this video of making lasagna that you could use for other things. So my kids really love spaghetti and meatballs, so this will be my meatball recipe. I'll use parsley. I'll chop up some oregano as well to throw in there. I'll also use grated Parmesan, and then salt and pepper, of course, panko breadcrumbs, a little bit of milk, a couple eggs. But in this one, I'm just using an egg and some flat leaf parsley because I'm going to have oregano and basil and other things in the lasagna already, and Parmesan and plenty of cheese in there already. But I'm using a lot of the base of my meatball recipe, and I'll just mix that all together and just roll up balls and fry them up in the pan to make meatballs, and they're fantastic. But here I'm just making the meat mixture for very similar to the meatball mixture, but just for the lasagna. So. You like that? You like my spaghetti and meatballs, don't you, Zoe?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do. Okay. Yeah, it is. All right, so I just added an egg. I'll throw some milk in there. Just a little bit of milk. And we'll stir that up. Stirry, stirry. And then we can add our meat and herbs and salt and pepper, and mix it all up, and then fry it up, get a good caramelization, deglaze the pan with some red wine, reduce that down, and then we'll add all the meat to the sauce and let it bubble for the next few hours, and that's really going to tenderize everything and reduce it down into a nice meat sauce. So see you in the next clip. I don't know.
You could just say the next time.
See you the next time. But I'm going to be making the rest of the lasagna. So the next time is like right now.
No, I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to say either. I'm not a professional video maker.
Yeah, you are.
I am?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
Now you just mix it and make some balls and put on a plate?
But yeah, if I was making meatballs, but I'm not making meatballs.
Oh.
But I'm making something similar to meatballs.
That might be enough.
Yeah, that's about enough. Just a little sprinkle. Just a little sprinkle. We're not going to use that whole handful pinch.
I mean, keep doing it, but just stop saying it.
Stop saying those things?
Yeah.
It's like a sommelier. Really, it's really fruit forward. I can really get the tannins on the back of my... Everything's fruit forward, robust, earthy.
No.
Really, some black currant in there.
Not dirt.
Not dirt, no, yeah. Hey, Max.
He's behind you. Oh, Dad said don't go behind it.
Oh, I forgot my breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs. So yeah, I get about a cup of breadcrumbs in there. That's about all I had left, so that's good. Pepper in there, buddy. Pepper.
But what am I gonna put?
You're gonna help me roll the pasta dough. Okay, so our pan is preheated. We're gonna throw a couple tablespoons, or maybe just a tablespoon. You don't need much oil in here. You don't really need any, but because there's plenty of fat in here. But you want to make sure that your pan is hot enough that you hear that sear, that sizzle when you throw it in there. You don't want to steam your meat. You don't want steamed meat. You need some caramelization on the meat because we're going to deglaze the pan again with the red wine, and all that flavor is going to go into our sauce. So I'll probably do 2 batches. I'll start with half the meat, just so, again, if you fill your pan up too much, you're going to steam the meat rather than getting that good sear on your meat. So you want to keep it kind of separated. Break it down a bit.
And he also has a little bit more stuff to do before he does the lasagna. And I'll take what I'll show you. The whole pan of lasagna.
I can't let my kids get too close to this fan or I'll suck them right out of the house. So don't get over here too close to the fan, okay, buddy?
Really? What?
It'll suck you right out of the house. This thing's powerful.
What? Are you sure it'll even lift me up? But you said it can lift me up out of the house. It can't even lift the pan up.
I was just joking. So we've already added salt and pepper, but we can add a little bit more now because it's hard to really touch it all until you break it up in the pan. And once you broke it up in the pan like this and it's searing away, don't move it. Just let it caramelize on that side. Then we'll try to flip it over and caramelize it on the other side. Okay, so here I just wanted to give a shot, kind of, you can see the sauce kind of bubbling away, steaming a bit. That's how we want to start reducing it. And then we have our 3 meat mixture searing away there. So it's been a couple minutes. Oh yeah, you see, good brownness there, good brown color. That's what you want. You want the dark brown, not black. Black's okay though. Not gonna hurt it in this big batch. Not gonna hurt anything. Flip it over. These huge chunks don't matter. As it cooks slowly in your sauce, it's gonna break down because as you stir it, what I like to do is just kind of smash the meat on the sides. I'll just smash it on the sides of the pot over there when I have it in the sauce. So don't worry about making everything perfect. You just want some good browning on the majority of both sides here like this. So we'll flip it over. And you know, that's good because this is all good flavor here. Give it a couple minutes on that side. We want to make sure to salt and pepper this side as well. If you're finding your meat a bit fatty, you're getting too much fat, you can just go ahead and suck some of that out if you want, maybe. All right, I see some good brown bits in there. I think we're about ready. Zoe, careful, I have some hot grease here, sweetie. So, we're getting some good coloring there. I'm going to go ahead and deglaze the pan. Okay. Probably used a half a cup. Now we want to stir all that goodness in there, all that flavor. This is what's really going to make your sauce. If the flavor bomb didn't do it, this is going to do it. I could eat that just like that.
Are you making a different kind of lasagna?
Nope. You just never watched me make it this closely before, I don't think. Okay, so we're kind of just reducing that wine down. Until all of our liquid starts to thicken up a bit. You can start breaking it up here. It's still not completely cooked through. That's fine, it's going to cook in the sauce. We have a lot of that brownness flavor of the meats. And now the red wine's reduced down. Very flavorful now. Now we can just add this to the sauce. Okay, so now we're going to add all this delicious flavor to the sauce. And we're just going to repeat this process again for the second half of the meat. We'll clean up our pan and do it again. That's looking pretty nice already. Okay, so we have our sauce bubbling away. I'm gonna go ahead and make the pasta dough. So I do it the lazy man's way, I guess, and with a food processor. So there's lots of videos on YouTube of how to make pasta dough. This is just how I do it. So if you already know how to do this, fast forward. Otherwise, I'll just go through it pretty quickly here. We just take our eggs. We'll take a few eggs, crack them into the food processor. So I like to use 3 whole eggs and then just 1 egg yolk. So in order to just get the yolk, you can just crack it in half and then run the yolk back and forth and the egg white will just fall out. Dump the yolk in. So there are different ways to do this. I like to just go ahead and add my olive oil in here with the eggs. A teaspoon or so. My salt and pepper, I'll just go ahead and throw that in there. You don't have to over season it here. Just use a light thin ground for your pepper. Don't want big chunks of pepper in there. You don't have to add pepper. I just like to add a little pepper. I like seasoning. I sometimes like a little bit too much seasoning, but not overpowering. I just like seasoning. So I'll go ahead and wazz up the eggs just a little bit. Get them mixed up, get them started. And then we want to carefully measure, I don't know, 6 to 10 heaping tablespoons, depending on how much you get on each one. But let's see, so we'll start with 6, 2, 3, 4. Those are not heaping. 5, 6. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to 7. These are not heaping. If I had it in a bowl, it could be heaping. 8. We'll go ahead and do 10. 9. I don't know if I counted 8, 9, or 10. All right, 10. Looks like a good start. Maybe we need a little bit more probably. So there's recipes for this online. They'll give you exact measurements. I just like to eyeball it myself because, you know, eggs are different sizes, right? So it's not really a science here. And then you'll just want to mix it up until you make your dough. So it shouldn't take you long, maybe 30 seconds at the most. And I can already tell here I did add too much, so it's a little bit dry. That's not a problem. All we do is add another egg. So don't throw your batch out. Just add another egg. We added too much. There's no problem, just making more dough. What I'm gonna do for my project today, the 2 batches of lasagnas, I'm gonna make 2 balls of dough. So I'll just show you this first one. We have that egg in there and should be mixing. Okay, it's starting to ball up. See, started to ball up. We don't want to overwork it. Once you see it balling up like that, that's when you know you have a good consistency, right? Still a little bit sticky, but that's okay. We're gonna work with that on the counter and some flour. Dry your hands nicely. Dust a little. We're gonna need some saran wrap, cling wrap. Dust a little flour on your counter here. And just take your dough out onto the flour. Can. Might be just a little wet, but that's okay. So we were underboard and then we went overboard with the egg. But that's fine, that's in that margin of error. That's where we can just add a little flour as we work it on the counter. So now we'll just work it with the flour here. And you'll see, there's plenty of videos online on how to do this. You basically just fold it over, press it down, turn it, fold it over, press it down. So just do this for a few minutes. You might need to add a little more flour if you're a little bit too wet. Still, it starts sticking to your hand. Just work it down, fold it, turn it, work it, turn, fold, work it, turn, fold. So we'll just do that. It's starting to look nice. Okay. I'm gonna turn it and fold it the other way now. Black's probably not the best shirt to wear when making this. Okay, so we got it good. Now we'll just start to make a ball. Work it into a ball. Okay, so we've worked it for a couple minutes. Now we just make us a nice little ball of dough here. Okay. And then we just wrap it up and let it rest for 30 minutes to an hour. 30 minutes is fine. Just wrap it up in saran. Leave it on your counter. 30 minutes. Actually, I didn't get a good wrap on that. You want to make sure you get this airtight because it will dry out if you don't wrap it up properly. So I just wrap it up and I'll make another one of those, let it rest for 30 minutes, and then we'll be ready to roll it out into some lasagna noodles. Okay, so our pasta dough has rested for about 45 minutes. I just checked on the onions. They're looking pretty translucent, so we're gonna go ahead and pull those out. So just take some tongs, find your onions, pull them out, put back that goodness, that meat tint back in there. And so you'll just get the major chunks out. And then as you slowly stir the sauce, you'll see a little onion maybe once in a while float up. You'll just pull it out. That's it. Okay, so our pasta has rested probably for an hour now, so we're good to go. Got my pasta roller extraordinaire here. So I have two of different sizes. If you watched it earlier, I had one where I had to add an extra egg just to dry it up a bit. What we're gonna do is just dust our counter with some flour. All right. Watch yourself, Zoe. Yeah, it's a little dusting. We have our pasta hanger here. You can lay it flat on your kitchen table if you don't have one of these, or hang it with clothesline with hangers from your closet. I've done that before. If you don't have a roller, you can just use a hand roller. Roll it out really thin. But this comes in handy here, and it has an attachment you can put on here to make some tagliatelle or fettuccine, whatever. And I also like those KitchenAid ones, which are automatic. You attach to your KitchenAid mixer and it just does it on its own. So those are nice too. But I like to put my kids to work, so just take the dough out.
And then you put it inside and I roll this, and then it comes flat.
I'm gonna save this cellophane here, this saran wrap. All right, so we'll just cut it in half as evenly as possible. The main thing I wanted to show you with this is how to roll out the lasagna noodles, how to make it into a rectangle. Because then this just becomes a pretty repetitive process here. So after you cut it up, just kind of put your other pieces back into the cellophane. This will dry out pretty quickly. So, but if you're moving quickly, you don't really have to do that. So we've cut it into a section, a quarter. I make a little ball, start flattening it out. Got to shape it a little bit. I have it on its widest setting here. Or again, if you're using a hand roller, just throw this down onto your counter, start rolling it out from the inside out all the way around, and then try to make a rectangle. Pretty simple. Okay, so we have it at its widest. You'll start turning, and you don't stop until it's all the way through, Zoe. Go, 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 go. Good job. So I like to add a little dusting to it before we roll it through again. I like to go through each step twice. Oh, other way, other way. Yeah, go, 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 go. Okay, and then we'll go to number one. And I'll just show you the next step. I'm not gonna go through this whole process. Go, Zoe, quickly. Keep going. You're gonna go through each number twice. Go, go, go. Max is losing his mind down there.
Yep, he always does that. I hate when he does that.
All right, I'll do it. Watch your head. Okay, so for lasagna, I like to keep it a little bit thick. Should be nice and pliable, and you should be able to see your fingers through the pasta dough. And then you should be good to go. I don't know if you can see that, but you can kind of see my fingers through the dough. And I like to keep it a little bit thick, not too thick, but you know, not as thin as like ravioli or something. You want to be able to have your layers when you're layering up your lasagna. So then I'll just dust it a little bit on each side. And again, if you don't have a hanger, you can use coat hangers, or you can just lie it flat on your kitchen table. Then I'll just hang this up, and then I'll do the 2 full balls of dough and let it dry for an hour or 2, hour at minimum, and then we'll start layering up the lasagna. Okay, so one thing I failed to mention is that when you're rolling out your pasta dough, sometimes what makes it easier as it's getting longer, I realized when I hung it up on the hanger there that I was draping down, I was like, well, it's normally not this long. Usually I cut it in half. So just had a little brain fart. So then you can cut it in half and then roll it out, and it's more manageable, especially when you're hanging it on a low hanger like that. Okay, so we're about 5 hours into the process now. I went ahead and set out my cheeses, let them warm up a little bit. We're getting close to constructing the lasagnas. I have 2 casserole dishes here. But I'm gonna go ahead and prepare my dressing, my vinaigrette for the salad. I like to have arugula with some cherry tomatoes. As a salad, sometimes I'll mix in just some mixed greens and an arugula. I'll toss it into a simple vinaigrette. It's fantastic to go with this meal. So to make a simple vinaigrette, all we're gonna do is take some red wine vinegar, put it into a jar, a new bottle. Probably should have taken that out first. Yeah, we'll just pour it in here. So we get our red wine vinegar in there. That much would be fine. A little Dijon mustard. Oops. Maybe about a tablespoon. Getting low on Dijon, gonna have to re-up. And a little salt and pepper. That's good. Make sure it's nice and finely ground pepper. Okay. Clean up our little mess there. Little mustard mess. And this is just a classic, simple vinaigrette. Shake that up there. Okay. We're at our olive oil. Get a good virgin olive oil. Go about 2/3 oil to vinegar probably. Now we'll shake that up really well. Nice emulsion. Okay. Give it a little taste. Needs anything. Just a little bit more vinegar. Like a little bit more tang. A little bit more tartness there. All right. Another shake. And taste, and you see you should just cover your spoon like that. Just coat it. Fantastic. Throw this in the fridge, let it cool down, and then we'll just, before eating, we'll just toss our greens in this and have a fantastic salad. Okay, so now we're going to construct our lasagna. So I have 2 casserole dishes. Again, I'm making 2 lasagnas. I just take some olive oil, grease the dish here, and then I like to start with a bottom layer of sauce. I've also chopped up some oregano here and a little chiffonade of basil. So in order to do this with the basil, you'll just take your large leaves, stack them, roll them like a cigar, slice it thin, because this herb is really easy to bruise. So we have that. We have our cheeses, our provolone, mozzarella, our mixture of the mascarpone and ricotta. So I'm going to start with just putting a small layer of the sauce on the bottom of the dish here. And our sauce is really starting to thicken up quite a bit. It's reduced by a couple inches. So as you can see here, I just put a little bit on the bottom. This is just really to keep the pasta up off the bottom of the dish, because you don't want your pasta cooking to the bottom of your dish. So a little sauce down there with little chunks of the meat is going to lift it up off the bottom of the dish and help it to not stick to the bottom. So you can see there, it's just like a little thin layer. So then your pasta should be nice and dry. Should kind of keep its form a bit. Maybe it'll break apart like that. That's fine. Your pasta does not have to be perfect at this point. It just has to make layers, because nobody's really going to see the imperfections. Okay, so then we'll just start, we can flatten out the ends here, make it square. Just start making a layer. And we can use these end pieces to fill up gaps and corners, like in this oval dish that I have. So you can just kind of break that off. We'll use that. It's a nice big square piece. Kind of need a thinner piece here. So we'll go about that far. You just cut it to size, make your layers, it's fine. If it breaks and not the perfect shape or whatever. So I know this is kind of boring here at this point, but I just wanted to show you when I put the cheese layers on and the herb layers on, how I do that, because it's easy to go a bit overboard with cheese or with herbs. And then you could potentially have just a bowl of soup, a lasagna soup, and we don't want that. So we have our first layer down. That's great. So we're going to add a little sauce to that. Start with the sauce. And adding sauce is where some people get into trouble as well, because you don't want to add a lot of sauce for each layer. You want to have layers of flavor, right? So especially with a thinner dish, you need to have thinner layers. So we'll start with this amount of sauce here, and we want to just spread it around, covering the edges all the way up, all of the pasta. And so it's really, you might even see a little pasta sticking through. That's fine, that's perfect actually. If you can see a little bit of pasta once in a while sticking through, you don't want to have just a layer of sauce. It's going to be too thick, too runny. You just want a thin layer of sauce. If you have extra sauce left over, that's great. You can just have it for pasta at another time. I mean, you could freeze it, whatever. You just don't want to overdo it, so just kind of spread it out evenly. And then I like to build a foundation with the provolone first, because the provolone is going to help to build the foundation. We want a solid foundation. This cheese will tend to be, it melts well and it's stringy, holds its shape when you cut it, but then when you pull on it, it just strings out, right? But it's going to hold its shape more so in the foundation. So I'll just put one layer, and I'm only going to use one layer of the provolone. It's again, it's a very pliable and stretchy cheese. You don't want a lot of that in your dish, but just a little bit is great. Maybe 3 going down each side. Okay. So we have that. Take a little bit of oregano, a little bit of basil. And just a little bit goes a long way, because we're doing layers. We're going to be doing this several times. And now we can put another layer of pasta on. Okay, we have another layer of pasta here. I'm going to add another layer of sauce. So if you can take a look here, you can see maybe like 4 spoonfuls, large spoonfuls, and we'll spread it around all the way to the edges, covering all the pasta. So then you're going to take a look again. You can see some of the pasta shining through. That's perfect. It's exactly what you want. You don't want it too thick. We're making layers here. So you want to be able to cut it and have an actual piece of lasagna on your plate, not a big bowl of soup. And this is how you do it. So now we'll take our mascarpone mixture and just put some maybe that's a pretty big scoop, so maybe just try 2 scoops to start, maybe 3. You don't want to overdo it again. Take a different spoon to spread this out. So now we just spread it out just like we did with the sauce. You can see I'm just kind of spreading it out. Don't want to overdo it once again. Hey, Max Man, you're back. So we'll just spread that ricotta and mascarpone. It has the Parmesan in there as well. And we have a nice little layer there, see? Now we're talking. So then we'll add just a little more oregano here. Sprinkle. And see why you don't want to add too much on one layer, because we're layering it up. It's going to be fantastic. Don't you worry. And we have 2 here, so we want to use about half the herbs. Or you can chop up some more. We have more. You just don't want to overdo it on the herbs per layer. About that much is plenty. And so now we're just going to put the pasta, and then we'll do mozzarella, and then we'll do the pasta, and then we'll do the mascarpone again. And so you can just layer this how you like, whatever cheeses you like more. You can do that if you have a thicker dish. You know, do it however you like. I just recommend 1 layer of the provolone though, because it can get a bit too cheesy. I just like that down at the base of the lasagna. Makes a good foundation for it. And then just stack up your mascarpone, ricotta, mozzarella. Finish it off with some sauce and mozzarella on top, and that's ready for the oven. So maybe I'll show that the final layer before we throw it into the oven for both of them. Okay, so I'm finishing layering the first, hey Max. Finished layering the first lasagna, and then just to finish off with a layer of pasta and the sauce, another thin layer of sauce, and then we'll just top it with a little bit of this shredded mozzarella. You could even top it with some buffalo mozzarella if you like, but it has that type of fresh mozzarella tendency is to have a bit too much moisture, and again, we want to avoid the soup lasagna. So another light layer of cheese on top. And I put 2 layers of mozzarella within the lasagna, and so this is about how much you want on a layer. You don't want a lot of shredded mozzarella because it will be too cheesy. So just a little thin layer. And I put a little bit extra on the top though, just to make sure I cover it all. But again, a thin layer, but just making sure that I cover everything on top. And voila, this should be good to go, just like that. And now we will construct the second one. Okay, so now for the second most satisfying part of making lasagna, and that is when you have them fully constructed and you throw them into the oven and then you just wait. So I have the oven set at 350 degrees and I'll leave them in there for 30 to 45 minutes until they start bubbling up and getting nice and a little bit brown on top. So we'll take a look at them then. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes into the oven. The last 5 minutes I turned on the convection. I had it at about 360 this time, just to make sure it was finished in 30 minutes. And so it's looking pretty good. Nice and browned here, if you can see. And so we'll just let it rest for about 30 minutes. And the second one that my son helped me construct, which if you want to watch that at the end of this video, I'll post that at the end of this video. It's a nice one. Okay, so as that's resting, if you're still watching this, I want to share a little tip with you, a little trick. Especially now that we're not going to the grocery store as often. If you don't know this trick, it's a really good one. So you take your stale bread, we've had this for a couple days, it's getting kind of stale. We can reconstitute this and make it just like you just bought it from the grocery store, or pretty close. All you have to do is just run a little water over it. You run a little water over it, throw it into the oven, a few minutes, it's just like brand new. So what I'm gonna do here though is I'm gonna take these baguettes and I'm gonna crush some garlic, little rosemary and olive oil. I'll slice it in half and just put the rosemary, olive oil, and garlic in there, throw it in the oven for a few minutes. But one I want to show you that you should have with every lasagna or pasta meal, in my opinion, good olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, right into a dish, and a good balsamic vinegar, right in the middle there. And I like to take some dried Italian herbs, just a little sprinkle of that, some sea salt, like Malden sea salt, right in there, and some freshly cracked pepper. Now you have that, a couple of those on the table to dip your bread in. It's fantastic. Okay, so as our lasagnas are resting, I'm gonna go ahead and prep the bread. So again, I just take this garlic, crush it. Now I'm just gonna take the bread, and again, with our trick of reconstituting it, just run a little water right over it. Don't soak it, just coat it in water. And now we can just cut it. Let's go ahead and cut it like a garlic bread, I guess. You can leave it in halves if you want. Okay, so with our bread opened up, we'll just take some of this garlic. A little sprinkle on there of garlic. Don't really want to overdo it here. Just sprinkle it around all the pieces. Oops. Kind of rub it in there a little bit. Give it a good rub. Get the garlic in there. Just rub it in. Spread it around there. And don't overdo it. Just depends on how much garlic you like, right? I mean, you don't have to put garlic on it if you don't like, of course. Wash your hands. But if everybody's eating garlic, then it's all that matters. And since you're not going out in public right now because of the coronavirus, eat all the garlic you like. All right, so we'll take a little salt and pepper on there as well, a little sea salt. I like to put salt and pepper right in the bread, season the bread. I think some people are just scared of seasoning. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but salt and pepper does wonders for many things. So don't be scared to use it. All right? Pepper the bread. Okay. Now we have our rosemary. And you can just pick this off when you're ready to eat it. But what's going to happen is we're just going to kind of infuse the bread with the rosemary. And we do that with drizzling a little olive oil over it at the end before we put it in the oven. Okay, so it's smelling good. We have our garlic and rosemary on the bread. And now we just want to give it a little drizzle of oil, especially over the rosemary. And then just drizzle it over. And so you get that rosemary, then drizzle it over the bread. Rosemary bread. Rosemary bread. And so that's going to, when the oil kind of cooks on the rosemary, it'll drip down into the bread. You'll get that rosemary flavor on into your bread as well. So that's that. We'll throw it into the oven for about There you go, about 7 minutes. So I go anywhere from 4 minutes to 10 minutes, depending on how crispy you like it. I like mine a little bit more crispy than, than my wife, so probably leave mine in there longer. So let's throw it in. I'll throw it in at 350. And I'll leave that in there for about 5 minutes. Okay, so we have the bread in the oven, and I'm just going to toss the salad here with our vinaigrette we just made. So we need to shake up the vinaigrette every time you want to use it. Just shake it up. Be ready to go. And I have some fresh garden-grown arugula here. We need a bowl. That was a joke, Julie.
What?
You're not paying attention. My wife doesn't pay attention to me. I'm used to it.
Oh, you're talking to me?
No, I was talking to the camera, actually. I know. You weren't paying attention. I said I had some fresh garden-grown arugula here. Straight from the plastic container, you know.
Oh.
Anyway, so we have our vinaigrettes here. Oh, here we go. And so we'll just pour a little bit of that on there. Oh yeah. And you can lick the jar because we're not in a restaurant. It's just our family for the foreseeable future. Okay, so we've tossed it in the vinaigrette dressing. Just throw it in your nice serving dish. And there's an argument going on upstairs about an Easter egg. Did Zoe steal the Easter egg? It's a caper. Maybe it's a game of Clue that we'll play tonight. I don't know. But we have our salad there, and we have some nice cherry tomatoes. We'll just throw that on there and serve some cherry tomatoes with our salad. All right. There we go. So put that on the table. Okay, so here we have the lasagna, and I just sliced it to get a slice out here. Hopefully it's in good shape. We'll find out. It's only been about 7 hours in the making. And it looks pretty good, a nice layered, holding its shape. All right. And there we go. Oh yeah. It has a really good consistency, holding together, holding its shape. My wife and I like these end pieces. A little crunchy on the edges. Oopsie. And I'm sure my son will be coming back for more, but we'll start him off with one piece. All right, let's go to the table. So what do you two kids have to be thankful for right now, even though we have to stay home?
For workers.
For workers? Which workers?
Our mom and the doctor.
Our mom and the doctors at the hospitals? Mm-hmm. What about you, Max? What are you thankful for right now?
Our house and food.
Okay.
I am thankful for our health and that I have a wonderful husband who made such a delicious meal for us and my two beautiful children.
And I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to make this fantastic meal for my beautiful family and that we're all healthy, even though we have to stay home, but we get to go outside and ride our bikes around a little bit. But, you know, we're all healthy right now and we're very thankful to eat this homemade meal. And I hope that you guys are staying safe too. Don't we hope everybody's staying safe?
Yes.
And healthy? And hopefully you can make this lasagna for your family as well. So take care. Bye. Say bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
That's going to record us.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso.
Okay, buddy, so what I've done here is I put olive oil and greased it so it doesn't stick when I'm cooking it. Now I just put a little layer of sauce down here so it has little chunks of beef and everything and the sauce. And so when we put our first layer of pasta down, the pasta is not going to cook to the, or stick to the dish, right? Okay.
But you wouldn't do that on a cake.
No, I would not put sauce on a cake. There you go. Yeah, we just want to make sure we cover all the spots. And you can overlap a bit like that. Yeah, just like you did. That's perfect. There you go. I'll just break some pieces for you and you can layer it up, and once you're finished, you tell me. And then I'll layer up some cheese. Here, these are yours.
Yep.
I'm just gonna put them there. If you need a small piece, you can just kind of rip a small piece. If you needed it for this end or something.
Yeah, and the piece.
You need to patch a hole. All right, so that's a good layer. It's kind of difficult with these oval dishes. All right, so put about 4 scoops on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we just spread it around. Push the pasta down over there. Covering all the pasta. You just want a thin layer. You don't want a huge layer of sauce right here, do you? Because then it'll be just like soupy. So just a little thin layer like that. And the first layer I like to put the provolone because this is going to create a good foundation. It's got it's a really dense, like cheesy, melty cheese, so it really kind of holds together at the bottom. A little overlap's okay. Usually 3 down each side's okay. There you go. Going down there. Okay, that'll work. There you go. And one more. Sprinkling some herbs. Oregano. No, we have enough oregano. Let's put a little basil down. Basil. Okay. Perfect. Okay. That's good. All right, now we put more sauce. Oh, sorry. No, we don't. We put another layer of pasta. There we go. There we go. So you see, I may have ulterior motives for making this video because somebody's going to be making this lasagna soon.
Yeah.
Who's going to be making this lasagna soon?
Me.
That's right, buddy.
Yeah.
You're going to be making it for the family, but don't overlap it too much because you don't want to have 2 layers of pasta over the whole thing. Just 1 layer. Okay. And there. Okay. And then 1 more little hole to fill. Let's go. This one. Fill that hole. Okay, that's good. That's good.
Now put sauce.
Sauce it. Gotta move it kind of quickly because I don't want the other one to sit too long by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Getting heavier.
Whoa, watch it, buddy. Careful.
Heavier and hit.
Mm-hmm. Get down there.
Now we put cheese.
Okay. I'm gonna put this cheese.
What?
Now this is a mixture of mascarpone, ricotta, and parmesan, and some egg. And we just kind of spread it around. Like this.
Oh, I know that kind.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Remember
I've
this?
seen it.
You saw me do this before, huh?
Yeah, it smells the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Smells so much like this.
It's smelling good, buddy? I know it is. Wait, let me do it. I'm just gonna kind of hurry because we need to get them in there. If we were just making one, I would let you do it, buddy. Sorry. Okay. I'm gonna get another layer of pasta. Oops. Boom. There you go, buddy. Boom. Watch your sleeves, don't get it in the sauce. Look. It's alright. Boom. Boom. Take that off. Okay.
Layer of sauce.
Sauce it up. Oops. Need my spoon. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, Dad, you still using this?
No.
Nah, okay.
I knew you wanted to eat it. I knew you just wanted to eat it. It's been a long day of making lasagna, buddy. We're about hour 6 now.
I wish it just took like a second to make lasagna.
I bet. Me too.
But I finished. What finished?
Alright, so we're just going to put our
Lasagna.
first layer of mozzarella. Just a little thin layer. A thin layer, that's enough. Okay. Let's get the rest of our herbs on there. This will be enough herbs for this one. I don't really want to chop up anymore. That's a good amount of herbs. There we go, pasta. A little crisp. Just eating pasta, huh? Mm-hmm. This one I'm gonna put on. Giant piece. Watch your sleeve, Larry. There you go. Just piecing it together here. Doing the best we can. Okay, now we're gonna go sauce. Do. Just a layer of sauce there. A little bit more of this. Yummy goodness. Spread it around. And we can always just pick some basil. There's no harm in doing this and just breaking it up in there, right? You want to break some up in there? Break it up good. And you just rip it, toss it, rip it and toss it. Big chunks are fine. Mmm, that smells good, huh?
Wink.
Winkety poink. Okay. Now, one more layer, I think, of pasta. Boom.
Whoa.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to break off the ends like that. Make it like that, yeah. It's okay. Just moving quickly. Boom. Oh, sorry, I'm just moving quickly. Boom, boom. Okay, we're good enough. Maybe one more little boomy boom down there. Okay, last sauce. Last saucing. The last saucing. Finally. Now that you're ready to go off to college by the time this is finished. All right, we're saucing. Get those edges in there because you don't want that. You gotta keep that pasta moist because it's going to cook in the oven. You don't want any dry pasta like sticking up, right? But I kind of like a little crunch and a pasta on the edges sometimes. Okay, it's looking good. Okay, now we're going to go mozzarella one last time. Yeah. Okay.